Welcome to the Lane Podcast, and today we're just going to cover the MLB trade deadline. Not much is happening elsewhere in the sports world outside of men's USA basketball kind of dominating in a way. And we'll talk about that towards the end of the Olympics. But starting off, and it was a very busy trade deadline. Starting off, the Dodgers acquired Jack Flaherty for a catcher and infielder Trey Sweeney. Really, that was not much for getting a pitcher of Jack Flaherty's caliber, but I think it was a great move. And also, I mean, the Dodgers had a big deadline. They acquired a lot of pieces, and I think it was just a big overall move for them. Moving forward, man, there were some overpayings, and the Padres really overpaid. So one of the better, they acquired probably the best reliever that was available this deadline. Tanner Scott, left-handed reliever closer, and Brian Hoeing, who's a good swingman, middle of the bullpen type of guy. For top prospect, Robbie Snelling, Adam Mazur, Graham Pauley, and Jay Bishears. Adam Mazur and Graham Pauley have already had success in the major leagues. Robbie Snelling has been elite. I think he was their number 3 prospect in baseball. And so they gave him up for a closer who's going to be on the team for a year. So it's an overpay, right? Because you give up. So they're both 3 top 15 prospects for the Padres. So it's kind of huge. I'm trying to pull up. Yeah, so this year he's had a rougher year, 16 starts, 6.38 ERA. Not kind of as dominant as he was last year, where he had across 3 levels, 2.2 ERA in 22 starts, 103 innings, and 118 strikeouts. But they give up a guy who I think they selected, 39th overall? And this is after they gave up another top pitcher they were big on, both teenagers, both showed great development. And so it's kind of big to see both of them go. Graham Pauley kind of played a lot this year, and a bit for helping Manny Machado. I think the Marlins did a great job. They need to redo pitching. For a while they had this big pitching pipeline, but they started losing a lot of those guys to injuries and then trading them away. So in a way, they kind of gave up too much to kind of only get make the wild card, and so now they're having to rebuild, and some of their guys just got hurt. Adam Mazur had been the 5th starter for the Padres this year. He looks good. Pauly has some power to him. I mean, I'm big on Pauly, but and Adam Mazur and Robbie Snelling, I think he's going to be a frontline starter. Adam Mazur backline, Graham Pauley, probably just a very solid super utility type of guy. Jay Beshears, I don't know much about, but Tanner Scott is a great reliever, and I think they redid their bullpen in a way and made it even better, as well as Brian Hoeing, who I think is a pretty solid swingman / middle reliever. And then as well, the Guardians acquired Alex Cobb for Jacob Breschman and a player to be determined. Alex Cobb has not debuted at all this season due to hip injury in his left hip. He had surgery on it, but I think it's a move that they've had a lot of struggles with their younger starters, and I think they needed an older guy to kind of help fill in. The Yankees have worked on redoing their bullpen a little bit, acquiring De Los Santos for 2 minor leaguers. De Los Santos had been a solid reliever for the Padres. Again, both teams kind of redid their bullpens. Padres then acquired Martin Perez for Jimenez, an 18-year-old minor leaguer. Martin Perez he used to be good in 2022 when he was a Cy Young candidate, AL All-Star, but he's not. I mean, this season it's a 5.2 ERA. I don't really know why they brought him in, outside of just maybe hoping he can turn back the clock. I think it's similar to the Rich Hill thing they brought in last year, where it didn't make any sense. So the Red Sox acquired Luis Garcia from the Angels for 4 prospects. Matthew Lugo is really the only one with much notoriety. And Luis Garcia, who is 37, has turned back the clock a little bit. He's had 4 saves. I think he just helped be a setup man because they lost Justin Slayton with an elbow injury, so they don't know when he'll be back. So and it's a very patchwork. I wouldn't say patchwork, but there's a lot of guys who are like in their first full season playing who bounced around. So you kind of get a guy who's, been 37, been in the league for a long time. Just kind of get a veteran in it. The Orioles acquired a second player from the Phillies. They also acquired Sir Anthony Dominguez a while ago, but Gregory Soto for Seth Johnson and Moses Chase. I think this is big. They kind of needed to redo it, just put some guys that can have closing experience with Sir Anthony Dominguez and Gregory Soto, because Craig Kimbrell has looked shaky at times. He's getting up there in age. He's not the closer he once was. So it's kind of looking at that. I think it's a great move. They didn't really give up much. The Orioles did not give up much at all this offseason, or not this offseason, but deadline. And we'll talk about that in a second. But the Dodgers acquired Kevin Kiermaier. They tried to sign him 2 years ago. They gave up Ryan Yarbrough, who they had DFA'd. Yarbrough goes to the Blue Jays. They need some pitching. Kevin Kiermaier can help kind of be the fourth outfielder to fill in. He won't be a starter like he once was because his offensive game has tanked. Mark Canha has been traded again at the deadline for like similar last year to the Giants for Eric Silva. Eric Silva is a Double-A reliever. Mark Canha, he's all right, 687 OPS, but I mean, it's versatility. I think they platoon him. The Giants love platooning players. So moving again. The D-backs acquired Dylan Floro from the Nationals. Floro's had a great season, 2.06 ERA in 52 innings. And Shapiro, a corner infielder, has slashing insane numbers. He has almost 1,000 OPS in the minor leagues at AAA. So I think that's big for them. The Orioles also acquired outfielder Austin Slater and Linval Soto, both who were just traded from the Angels over to the Reds, and then they're getting traded from the Reds to the Orioles for a player to be named later, or cash. In an interesting move, the Cardinals gave up on Dylan Carlson, shipping him to the Rays, acquiring Sean Armstrong, who struggled this year. Both struggling players who had been before really good, just needed to change the scenery. I think Dylan Carlson's a great outfielder. I just think he kind of needed to leave. He couldn't get the playing time he needed to get his feet up, and I think the Rays right now, with how they're not, I wouldn't say they're bad, but I wouldn't say they're good either, can give him playing time and put him in the corner outfield with Jose Siri. And then also giving up Randy Rosarena to the Mariners. The Phillies acquired Tanner Banks, who's an all-right lefty reliever, 4.313 ERA, 55 strikeouts in 48 innings, for the number 11 Phillies prospect. And then this is the big one for the Orioles, and they acquired Eloy Jimenez, who's having a great year. Well, not a great year, but he has great potential, like MVP potential. And they only gave up, their, 12th, or not 12th, even like the 21st prospect in Trey McHugh. They really gave up nothing for Eloy Jimenez, and Eloy Jimenez could go off and go for like 320, 20 home runs, 40 RBIs type of second half. Guy's really good, and he's under contract for a while. Looking at it as well, Pirates acquired Brian De La Cruz for Young-Sung Shim and Garrett Forrester. It brings a solid outfield bat that they needed. They struggled in the outfield a little bit, kind of figuring out like center field and left field, while Connor Joe plays first base. And they only had to give up their 17th and 18th prospect, and they're kind of getting there towards playoff contention. The Twins acquired Trevor Richards, who, I mean, his ERA is kind of high, but he's a very versatile guy. 45 appearances, and he's pitched 52 innings, so he pitches more than one inning a lot of times. The Rangers acquired left-hander Andrew Chaffin, who they needed. He has a 3.16 ERA, 50 strikeouts in 37 innings. He joins the sixth team of his career. So, I like that move for the Rangers. The Rangers are kind of in no man's land where they're not bad, but they're not good. They're too far away to contend. The Mets acquired Paul Blackburn as they pushed for a wild card spot, especially with Kota Senga going down for the year. Just after one start, Blackman was the 2022 All-Star rep for Oakland, which in the MLB, every team needs a player to represent them in the All-Star game. So, like, you can be terrible, but you're the best terrible player on their team, and they'll let you represent. And they gave up Cade Morris in it. The Royals acquired Paul DeJong for some young prospect. The Royals I really like their deadline. They had Paul DeJong, who's having a very solid season, can be like a utility guy, play second base. And then they acquired Lucas Eric, we'll talk about in a second, who his running mate in the bullpen, Mason Miller, was supposed to be, traded, but he broke his hand, fractured his hand. We don't really know what happened behind that one, but so he fractured his hand. So he's out, but they did trade away Lucas Eric, who throws about 100 miles an hour. And for a bullpen that's struggling a lot, Lucas Eric comes in and kind of provides back of the rotation type potential. Not rotation, but bullpen. And they really didn't give up much for him. Well, they gave up their two of their top higher up prospects, and Mason Barnett, who's their 4th overall prospect, and Will Klein, who's their 18th, but he throws gas. Looking at this, John Schreiber, who was one of their top relievers, went down for the Royals with the right knee injury. So bringing in Lucas Eric was kind of big, kind of replacing him. And when they come back, you're going to have like what the Brewers have, with just dudes that can just throw, kind of like the Braves as well, where he can just cover all kinds of innings. He filled in as a closer. I mean, his numbers don't like insanely stand out because he missed some time, but like the stuff is there. He throws gas. Again, going to the Yankees retooling, they shipped out one of their bigger relievers, Caleb Ferguson, who they acquired this offseason to the Astros. I think the Astros needed bullpen help. They have a lot of no names. Caleb Ferguson is a very known commodity. Goodness gracious. Who can kind of fill like a long relief role, back end of the bullpen, middle of the bullpen type of role. He's a lefty as well. A bullpen that really has no other lefties. So, moving forward, the D-backs acquired Josh Bell for a player to be named later in cash. The Marlins tried to pass him through waivers, and I guess they just ended up trading him. He's not having the year he had like when he joined the team last year. They also the Diamondbacks also lost Christian Walker, who with an oblique injury, so having him kind of bring him was big. The Marlins brought in a lot of talent. I mean, a lot of talent. This is going to be an interesting team to see as they rebuild, how it pans out, because they already had some talent on the way that was kind of just working through some stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how they work through and how they develop. But moving forward, the Orioles acquired Trevor Rogers to be a back end of the rotation type of guy. I did not like this. He's 26 years old. Yes, he's young, but he has a 4.53 ERA, 85 strikeouts in 105 innings. Like, he's not really there. Like, it's not really looking good. For whatever reason, he had injuries in 2023 or 2022. Yeah, they kind of set him back. And then last year, he missed a lot of the season with it. And he just hasn't been that good. This year's been an upgrade. He looks like an all right rotation guy, but for a team that has World Championship aspirations, it kind of is just, it doesn't. I'm not high up on it. They didn't give up much with Connor Norby and Kyle Stowers. Norby's a top prospect and who I think will be a very serviceable second baseman. He can play a little bit of the outfield, but I just don't think that they should have. This was the guy they should have gone after. Eric Freedy was the guy I was wanting them to get from the White Sox, but I think he got traded earlier in the day before they could even get somebody. So as with that's that plays a factor into it. But Connor Norby kind of just this Baltimore team had, like, and I talked about it, they had a load of prospects and talents. So this is them kind of clearing some of it out, not really giving up much. They did call up Jackson Holliday today, and he hit his first home run, which was a grand slam. Who looks like to be like this big piece for them. Because right now Jordan Westberg and Gunnar Henderson are occupying the middle of the infield. But one of those guys will eventually move to third base and create room for Jackson Holliday. They just lost Westberg. I'm looking at over here to fractured hand. They don't know. There's hope that he comes back, but this provides Jackson Holliday everyday opportunity to kind of play second base and short and kind of just, get his feet wet. I think he's going to perform better. This is his second time up. And so the Orioles are a team I'm really looking forward to. But them giving up Connor Norby, he would have been in the place, but they kind of shipped him out because they didn't really have any room for him, especially with Kobe Mayo also being in the organization, and then kind of just running out of, position at bats to give players. Like, you have too many cooks in the kitchen, so you got some of those cooks out, send them to other places so they can have their opportunity. And that's what the Orioles are doing in a way. They didn't really give up much big guys. They didn't give up Colin Cowser, Kirsten Kierstead, Kobe Mayo, Jackson Holiday. They just gave up Connor Norby, who's kind of like the lower end of that squad. So, and Trevor Rogers, if he does good, he'll be a very solid back into the rotation type of guy. But if he doesn't, then it's going to be a disaster. The Red Sox, again, adding some veteran presence. Lucas Sims from the Reds. They gave up a 19-year-old that's in single A. Lucas Sims has a 3.57 ERA. He looks solid. I mean, this Red Sox team's the middle of the pack in the bullpen, but again, I think it's a very solid move. The Yankees came out again retooling their bullpen. Mark Leiter Jr. from the Cubs. The Cubs kind of selling off their players that are going to be free agents soon within the coming years, who they don't really see long-term re-signing. They sent him to the Yankees. He is like what? He is under team control until 2026, but he looks great. He had been flawless in the past month. He versatile, can be a closer, setup arm, long reliever. But they gave up two guys. I think Ben Cowles looks good, and then Jack Neely's been a long-time prospect who's starting to make his way up the organization. I know the Yankees were talking about trading Nestor Cortez Jr. because they have kind of a surplus of arms. I don't really understand why, because Lewis Gill is going to have to be watched, and Carlos Rodon going to be have to watch with their innings because they didn't really play at all last year. Carlos Rodon got like 50-something innings, maybe 60, but Lewis Gill had like 10 from coming back from Tommy John, so you kind of have to monitor their innings. But I'm happy they didn't trade him. The Braves, as a Braves fan, I thought this was a big move, acquiring Jorge Soler and Luke Jackson as a right-handed reliever for Tyler Magic and Sabin Sabalos. Tyler Magic does not look the same since he had Tommy John. Sabin Sabalos had no really where to go with Austin Riley being at third base. Luke Jackson fills a hole of kind of he kind of takes out them having to be able to rotate arms through. But I think they'll figure that out soon. I think someone will go. I think they also have Dylan Lee they can option down, but Jorge Soler is a need in outfield who can play right field and kind of hit really well. His last stint with the Braves went really well, and he looked insane. So I think this will be good. He kind of provides, he's been more of a leadoff guy than Jared Kelenic. Jared Kelenic's kind of hit a cold slump again. Jorge Soler, filled the leadoff spot for them when the last time he was with the Braves, and he's kind of been that guy as he's, went to the Marlins and to the Giants. He has insane power, so I think it'll be interesting. Luke Jackson, originally with the Braves as well, was a Brave prospect, moved up, he kind of became an elite bullpen arm. Then had Tommy Johns, and then he has been all right since, but this year he struggled a little bit, but I think he has a chance to turn it around. The Brewers acquired, and I thought this was big, Frankie Montas for Joey Wiemer and Jacob Junis. Jacob Junis looked great for them. Frankie Montas had a 5-year rate. Junis had a 2.42 ERA in 10, in his 10 appearances since he's been activated off the IL. So I didn't really understand why they needed to bring in Frankie Montas. Now the Brewers are a pitching organization that do really good with pitchers that bring, guys that aren't that good and make them really good relievers or starters. So like you're seeing with Koenig, there's a few guys there who they've kind of made really good relievers. So looking at that was big as well. There's a lot of trades happened leading up to the deadline. So this is where we're kind of going through. We'll kind of go through the week before notable trades. Jalen Beach went to the Pirates back in, not really back end. He was the back end for the Rockies, but he'll probably be a middle reliever, long reliever for the Pirates. For a, 23-year-old who's been lights out pitching-wise. The Dodgers reacquired Ahmed Rosario, who they, again, required last year at the deadline from the Guardians, who this year they acquired from the Rays. Give up a reliever named Michael Flynn, who's not been that good. And this was big. The Astros overpaid a lot for UC Kukui. They gave up Jake Bloss, the Astros number 9 prospect, Will Wagner, the Astros number 13 prospect, and Joey Luperfido, who's hit really, really well. He was like their top prospect before. Who's an infielder, outfielder. I'm really high on Joey Liperfido. Jake Bloss, not really. He can stay healthy, but for a guy that's a 4.75 ERA, it's an oversell, but they needed veteran pitching. You know, they have a lot of young guys. Spencer Arrigati has not done well this year. He's kind of, you know, I think he was brought up about 2 months before, too early, which is a lot for pitchers to kind of help them mature and kind of just get comfortable. So it's a massive overpay. I think one of the bigger overpays of the trade deadline, outside of the Tanner Scott overpay. The Guardians bring in Lane Thomas. For 3 prospects, Alex Clemente, Rafael Ramirez Jr., and Jose Tina. Jose Tina and shortstop Rafael Ramirez Jr. really had no place to go. Those spots already being taken up on the roster. Really just they couldn't develop into a place for them, so they get into a team that can kind of help develop them. Alex Clemente, we're just going to call him Alex. I think made his MLB debut the other day, so it pitched pretty well. Lenny Thomas is, you know, he's struggling for power this year, but he's one of the better outfielders in the league. And he was supposed to be traded last deadline, but the Nationals didn't do it. So this year they shipped him off to the Guardians, who needed an outfielder to kind of help. There's a lot of infielders playing outfield, like 3. Tyler Freeman, Angel Martinez, and Noel, who are guys that are infielders by trade, but are having to learn on the fly to play the outfield. The Mariners acquired Justin Turner for, I think, just cash. Justin Turner's, you know, he had a really good year last year, but he's like, 39 years old. This year he's gone down. You're seeing a lot of his, you know, his stats go down. He has a 720 OPS. So he's kind of regressing a little bit. Looking at this, the Dodgers, and this is the 3-team deal. You really don't see, you see more of those in basketball than you do baseball. The Dodgers acquired Tommy Edman and Michael Kopech and Oliver Gonzalez. Tommy Edman from the Cardinals and Michael Kopech from the White Sox. I don't know where Oliver Gonzalez came from. The Cardinals acquired Eric Feedy, Tommy Pham, Eric Feedy from the White Sox, Tommy Pham from the White Sox, both big needs. And then the White Sox acquired Miguel Vargas, Dorel Perez, and Alexander Albertus. Miguel Vargas is the only big prospect of name that really looks like he's going to be really good that they acquire, which is insane. Tommy Edman has been hurt all year for the Cardinals, but he brings versatility. They can play second base, shortstop, outfield that the Dodgers needed. Also, they acquired another big bullpen arm in Michael Kopech, who struggled but looks good. Eric Feedy is a guy that the Cardinals needed because they are struggled a little bit with the back end of the rotation, and he's just a stalwart. He can handle a lot of innings. Is pitched really well. Tommy Pham helps with, you know, the DH and kind of just play a little bit of outfield. Provides very solid hitting. I like it all around. I wish the White Sox would have gotten more. The Dodgers really never gave up much for teams, and you know, teams like this, they really never end up giving up a lot for certain players unless your name's the Padres. Then you sell your whole farm. But there's that. Then the Red Sox traded Quinn Priester for Nick York. Quinn Priester was a once a top 100 prospect, has not done well since making his MLB debut. He's kind of struggled since. He's still 23 years old. The Pirates acquired Nick York, who is hitting .310, slugging .490, and he's in Double-A. He was the Boston's number 6 prospect. He looks really good. They need a second baseman of the future. Tamar just has struggling, so they don't really know. A lot of teams, what they do when you're rebuilding or you're trying to get somewhere, you put a lot of prospects of one position or certain positions, and then you just hope that like a 1 or 2 arise. You can have 6, and usually 4 won't make it out, or won't pan out for nothing. So, you know, the Royals acquired Michael Lorenzen from the Rangers. Looking at here, the Cubs, this was a big one, acquired Isaac Paredes from the Rays for Christopher Moriel, who was a great third baseman for 2 other prospects. Hunter Biggie and Ty Johnson. Hunter Biggie made his MLB debut as a bullpen pitcher and looks solid. This was big because Isaac Paredes had like another year till usually the Rays trade him. Christopher Moriel had been thrown around as a guy the Cubs wanted to trade. Just because, you know, he's struggling. He's batting like 199, but he has hit 18 homers. It's just he struggles with average, strikes out a lot, but he hits the ball hard. And, you know, so I think I like both trades for both teams. Moriel's very, you know, they can experiment with him. because you have still Junior Candelario coming up to who's going to be the future third baseman. And you also have Curtis Mead as well. Moving forward, the Padres acquired Jason Adam from the Rays for 3 prospects. Dylan Lesko, then the other top prospect, pitching prospect, Homer Bush, and J.D. Gonzalez. All 3 top 15 prospects. They just shipped out the whole farm this postseason or this deadline for Jason Adam, who's a reliever. Relievers usually don't get a lot because of relievers. They're very volatile. One year they can be elite, next year they can be horrible. He does have a 2.3 ERA, 24 saves, and 194 strikeouts in the 3 seasons he's been there with the Rays. But, then again, very volatile. He is 32 years old. I want to look at Dylan Lesko because him and Robbie Snelling were taken in the same draft class. And so it'll be interesting. Let's see if it pops up. Yeah, there he is. He was taken 15th overall. Robbie Snelling was taken 39th. Again, struggled this year. He struggled both years. He's only made it to high A, but he is 20 years old. A lot of high strikeout stuff, like massive strikeout stuff. But, again, he struggled. But, again, they trade away a lot of their top prospects. I was happy to see they didn't trade Ethan Solis away because I think he's going to be one of the better catchers of the future. Moving forward, but he's also very young. So Phillies acquired Carlos Estevez for 2 pitchers, back into their top 30. Carlos Estevez has been one of the better closers in the league. He may be a closer, but may not be. The Red Sox acquired Danny Jensen for some prospects. None of real high notoriety. The Blue Jays sold off early on. I think they also traded Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, but we'll look at that in just a second. The Yankees, this was big for the Yankees, acquired Jazz Chisholm for Jared Senna, Augustin Ramirez, and Abraham Ramirez. Both top prospect. Augustin Ramirez has been top prospect. Jazz Chisholm, in like the 24 hours he's been with that team, he's hit like 4 home runs. And he provides versatility that they can plug and play him everywhere in the outfield outside of like first base and catcher, which is huge. He's played second base, shortstop, and left field already. So it's huge that they can bring him in. And he hits bombs. The Cubs bring in Nate Pearson. I'm high on him for Josh Rivera and Pinego. Nate Pearson has dealt with massive injuries, but he was once a top 100 prospect. He is now 27 years old, but he throws gas, and I think if you have a former top prospect that throws gas, has high potential, he'll eventually make it. He'll make it out. But the Orioles also acquired Zach Eflin, so it kind of helps offset the Trevor Rogers, more stable starter. They gave up, again, back into their top 30 prospects. They really never, outside of Connor Norby, did not give up anybody of much notoriety. Giving up Jackson Burmeister, Matthew Etzel, and Matt Horvath. So, again, the Mariners acquired Jimmy Garcia from the Blue Jays for Jonathan Clase and Jacob Sharp. Jonathan Clase is the only one of much notice, but he's kind of smaller, so he comes with a lot of risk with boom or bust. And then this is the big one. The Orioles acquired Sir Anthony Dominguez and Christian Pache for Austin Hayes. Austin Hayes, I think, was a former All-Star. He hit great last year, but has struggled terribly this year. Sir Anthony Dominguez has struggled off and on in his past 2 years, but he throws gas, a lot of potential. And Christian Pache is kind of a backup outfielder as well. And then the last one of much notice is there'll be 2 more. Will be the Randy Arozarena trade from the Mariners or from the Rays to the Mariners. They needed him. Then the Rays didn't really get much for him, which is insane to me. They got the 12th and 22nd prospect from the Mariners. And the D-backs acquired A.J. Puck for Davison De Los Santos, and Andrew Pintar. De Los Santos has been insane this year. He was a Rule 5 prospect. Didn't really make it out of spring training, but has been insane in the minor leagues like he has been before. So that was big, I think really the winners are not the Guardians, but the Royals, the Braves, the Dodgers, the Yankees. Just looking at another one, the one I just talked about. Just drew a blank. I think the Mariners did a great job of retooling. But The Marlins. I think the Marlins did a great job of bringing in a she's ton of talent to kind of help infuse their bullpen. Not their bullpen, but their not bullpen, but their farm system. Drew another blank. So I want to look. I'm going to do another check because I feel like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa was traded. Just not 100% sure. There's nowhere that really tells me. Yeah, there's no one that really. We'll check Fox Sports and then talk about some minor things. Actually, we won't because I don't have any memory and I don't want to go looking through. But yeah, this all the trades. I don't think that there was any more. So thank you for watching today's episode. Next episode will come out in a few days. There'll be more variety of sports, talking about the Olympics, football, all kinds of things, talking about training camp, the Cowboys, and stuff like that. So that will probably be Friday morning's recording. But thank you for watching.